Hi, my name's Lisa and I'm a co-founder of e-volveHR.
And my name's Chris and I'm a co-founder of CT19.
And I'm Sarah, the other co-founder of e-volveHR.
Welcome to our podcast, Humanize, lifting the lid on HR and recruitment.
So we've worked together for the last 3 or 4 years in a professional capacity. We decided to get together to share our experiences with our network, invite experts from our respective industry to share theirs. Hopefully people won't find it too serious. It's going to be topical. And I guess some sort of therapy for people.
Absolutely. Well, I am actually one of those people that knew what they wanted to do from probably 16 or 17, although I did have a couple of career choices before that.
Which were?
At 7, I wanted to be a librarian, just because I like books. And at 15, 16, I wanted to be a PE teacher, but that is mainly because I'm incredibly bossy, which hasn't really changed much.
This is true.
But actually, I'd worked for a rather large retail chain when I was 17. And I've always been really good with people, like talking to them, really interested in what made them tick, like a challenge and really like problem solving. And I spent some time with a personnel manager when I was about 16, spent a day working in personnel team. And pretty much from there on in, I decided that that was going to be the career choice for me.
Mm-hmm. It's an old school term, right? Personnel.
Oh, yeah.
Very old school, absolutely. Assistant personnel manager at the time.
Personnel officer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I knew at that point and then looked for courses at university just to see whether I could really study for that kind of qualification. Wasn't much around then. Ended up doing what my friends call a shopping degree, retail management at the time, but it actually specialised in personnel management as it was then. So yeah, I've pretty much known from quite an early age that that was the career that I wanted to follow.
Nice. And then just before I ask Lisa the same question, so do you think what personnel was then is the same as what HR is now?
Oh God, no. It's, it has completely changed. Personnel then, particularly because I was working in retail companies, that was like the first stage of my career. It was very much about man hours, getting people on the shop floor, dealing with any kind of employment relations issues. But that was pretty much it, just in terms of the nuts and bolts of running a store. It was incredibly commercial, which has been a really good basis for me in my career, because every other job that I've taken, I've been able to really think about what adds value to a business from a commercial standpoint. So brilliant grounding, but has changed a heck of a lot over the last 20 something years.
So Chris, same question to you. Talent acquisition, recruitment, like why?
It's what I wanted to do when I was younger. Not really.
Whatever.
As with most people, I think I guess the terms like fell into recruitment. Did quite a lot of other stuff before. I worked for a sports coaching company. We did like PE lessons and holiday clubs into primary age kids. So did the coaching, then was an area manager for that company. Owe a lot to them, to be fair, like really early exposure to leading a team. I was like 22 and I had a team of like 14 people like doing various stuff. I then moved to Norfolk with my now wife. Sold wind turbines. Wind turbines, yeah. They were actually free. So you didn't actually sell them? And they went bust, so I clearly wasn't selling enough.
Goodness.
Yeah, not selling enough. And then high-end aquariums. Worked for a company called Reef One, selling aquariums to pets at home and companies like that. And then I joined Reed, actually. So I really kind of like serious introduction to what recruitment is. There's like assessment days in London where you have an area manager like watching over you like a hawk. About 4 or 5 interviews later, got a job with Reed doing accountancy and finance recruitment, which was a bit boring, if I'm honest. Very KPI driven. You know, between 10 and 12, you're calling the same people you called the day before between 10 and 12. So moved back down. And then I joined a recruitment business called Orion. Again, lots of positive things to say about that. Really enjoyed my time there. My father-in-law actually runs a group of recruitment companies, fairly successful. And ever since I've been with Taylor, my wife, he was saying like, come and work for me. And I always outright refused. I was like, I'm never going to come and work for you. No. Then whilst I was at Orion, ended up actually joining a biotech company in Oxford called O&I. Great experience over there. Got to spend time with some very, very bright people and learnt a whole lot. Which
does that include Lisa? Because that's where you guys met.
This is where we met. So Lisa and I met over at O&I in Oxford. And then one day on holiday, as a bit of a joke after a few beers, I said to my father-in-law, I was like, well, you said about working for you, like how about helping Taylor and I set up our own thing. So fast forward 4 years nearly, here we are. So but to go back to your point about why recruitment, I just enjoy dealing with people. I enjoy talking, and specifically science and engineering, because I think, I'll be honest, I hated science at school, like hated it. If my science teachers from school could see what I was doing now, they'd be pretty surprised, I think. Just enjoy dealing with people, spending time with intelligent people as well, and learning. And it's every day is different, as I'm sure you know.
Yeah, well, you're dealing with people. It's never the same. But you obviously hire people that are highly intelligent, really specific. How easy is that?
I actually think the more specific a skill set from a recruitment and finding someone perspective, it can often be easier.
Really?
It's less subjective. So versus recruiting a salesperson, which could be quite highly subjective. Someone who Sarah thinks is a good salesperson might be different to what you do. So I think when we're working on some really niche technical roles, narrowing that pool of people down is often easier. Getting in touch with those people and actually managing to speak to them is often where the challenge is.
And what's the bit that gives you the buzz? Like, what's the bit that you think, yes, that was good?
I think the satisfaction, like, we work primarily with startups, and
same as us.
We are genuinely valued, I think, by our client partners. So we introduce, I remember I made a really, one of the most technical placements I probably made with a company in Cambridge, and the CEO at the time like actually called me and said like, thanks Chris, great find. And I just feel like when you work with those bigger companies, maybe they resent paying an invoice for something you've done for them. Whereas I think in startup world, in my experience, they actually seem grateful because they recognise that you've introduced them a scientist or an engineer that can help take their technology or their product to the next level.
Challenges? What's the hardest thing about it?
I would say there's a lot of hard things about recruitment. I guess
the key one that would probably, that just kind of pushes you and you think, oh.
I would say trying to understand what the client wants and relaying that into like your search and the conversations you have with people. And I think that's perhaps one of the biggest skills that a good recruiter can have, is being able to listen to what a client wants, not just read a job description and put keywords together, because let's be honest, anyone can do that. I think it's taking what someone says, taking that to market, and then actually like delivering that message to the people you're trying to like recruit.
And even though that's the hardest thing, I think that is definitely the most important thing, because that's how you end up finding the right people to fit the right role in the right culture.
Yeah, and I've worked on plenty of roles before where there's not even been a job description. And I think, again, that's like startup world, right? Like a client will just pick up the phone and be like, we think we need someone that's got a bit of this and a bit of that. And what do you reckon? It's like, leave it with me. I'll see what I can do. So, Lisa, same question for you. Like, why HR?
Yeah, I think if I go back, I left school and I didn't do very well at school. I left with just mediocre exam results, had no idea what I wanted to do. Worked at Prudential. Everybody worked at Prudential. It was like school away from school. Did that, didn't really enjoy it. Left, and then I went to work for a burglar alarm company. Super weird. I'm not technical. Selling burglar alarms. Didn't do very well at that either. But kind of persevered. And then I ended up managing the sales guys, the reps that go out on the road. And when I did that, I kind of settled in, because I think it was more about people a little bit. Still wasn't sure, still really didn't know what I wanted to do. Then I had Jordan. So then I didn't work for a little bit. And then I went into a Japanese college, which was super interesting. Lots of people orientated stuff, loads of students, love working with students. I was a PA. I was really bad. I feel like there's a bit of a thing here, because I'm saying I was really bad at
what makes a
things,
bad
but
PA?
I'm just not very organised. I can organise myself. I can't organise other people. Changing diaries and stuff like that was just absolute nightmare. So I wasn't very good at that. But they liked me, which was really good. So they moved me, and I was moved to looking after students and doing kind of stuff, bringing students in and out from Japan and bringing them into homes in the UK. And I really, really, really enjoyed doing that. And I worked with a lovely lady. And then from that, I wanted to do something else, and I had then started to think about what's my career going to be. And then at the college, they had a personnel officer, funny enough, old school personality and sympathy, and she left, and they asked me if I would like to do the job. Never done it before in my life, had no idea what I was going to do, super fearless at that point in my life, and I was like, yeah, I'll give it a go. So I gave it a go, and I worked with a really interesting guy that had come into the college to kind of help to work with us commercially, because it wasn't commercially doing so well. And I worked with him for quite a long period of time. He was super ambitious and quite ruthless, but he really taught me how to be a very commercially orientated HR professional, I guess. From that, I then went to a couple of big tech companies, And I quite liked I guess, what's the word? It's the technical side. So cheapy acquisitions, mergers. I really loved all of that. And I think it was because I'd had quite a commercial grounding. Did a commercial role for about a year in one of those companies where I looked after about 100 IT engineers. I am the worst IT person in the whole of our business. Like,
she absolutely is.
I hold that mantle,
Yeah.
and I managed them, but because it was managing people. It was about getting them to be the best that they could be. And I think because of that, I then came out from that job. I was there for a year and I thought, okay, no, I need to get back into HR. I don't want to be a manager. It's not kind of what I want to do. And then I came back out and just carried on my HR career and just loved working with people. Same as Sarah, problem solving, challenges. I like to walk into a bit of a shit show, you know, and kind of see how we can fix that and what does that look like. So yeah, I guess it. So it was never a plan. Sarah's was definitely more planned. Yeah. Mine was absolutely, don't like this, don't like that, don't like this, don't like that. Oh, do you know what? I'm going to do that. I actually quite like that. I'm actually quite good at that.
Yeah. And interesting what you said there, actually, because I imagine both of our businesses have similar situations where there's someone maybe managing a team of people that they don't necessarily want to be managing, or maybe don't have a technical background doing. Like, and I guess those people, in my experience, aren't necessarily the best people to do that job. So, yeah, interesting what you said there.
Yeah, no, definitely.
What led to you setting up your own business?
It was a big decision. I thought about it at various different points of my career, if I'm honest. I've worked, like most of my career has been startups and SMEs. And I've worked in so many different industries, in the sort of creative industry, I suppose. Started in the music industry, which was so much fun as a singer and an actor, obviously, as you can tell from today's podcast. No, I was working in music publishing, so kind of NME and Music Week at the time. Oh, it was so much fun. But I've always worked in quite unstructured creative industries and always kind of SMEs, and then moved into some of the larger orgs at times of acquisition, and the companies that I worked for just sort of slowly got bigger and bigger. I have to be honest, I'd got to the point where I was just absolutely sick to death of the politics bullshit, if I'm honest. You know, as an HR person, you tend to go in the same cycle, and the companies I was working for were getting bigger and bigger, and I just knew that I could do it better for much smaller orgs with CEOs and founders, and really put the basics in place right from the beginning from a people perspective so that we could really help them scale. And so I made the decision. It was also combined with, I've got 2 young children, not so young anymore, but I wanted to take a little bit more time to be a bit more flexible, because I'd done a lot of quite serious and senior HR director roles in my career. So it was just at that time, it was just the right time, I guess, to set up my own business. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I mean, obviously I knew HR and I know HR, but the thought of running my own business was probably the thing that put me off over the years, because it was, you know, it was something I'd never done before.
And more importantly, why with Lisa?
She was the only person that would work with me. Now, Lisa and I worked at a games company together, and we're just really like-minded in terms of the way that we think, the way that we practice HR. We're both really practical, direct talking people. And out of all the people that I've worked with in my career, she was really the only person that I thought would tolerate me, A, but B, was like-minded enough to set up a business that we were both ambitious for.
And the name, where does that come from?
Oh, e-volveHR. So that, I'm quite protective of that name, actually, because we've done we originally looked at different pictures. Do you remember when we were sending different pictures to each other? What about this? What about that? And we quite like the butterfly, and then a chrysalis, and you know, it comes from a chrysalis and it goes to a butterfly, and all of this kind of stuff, and it's like evolution. And we were like, and that's how it came about, was evolution. And I was like, what we're going to do is going to be the evolution of a business. As a business evolves, we will evolve with it and deliver our services, and our services will change and grow and be different. So that's kind of how we ended up with that. And a funny story, we did some brand work, I think it was probably 3 years ago,
about that.
because we were starting to get a bit bigger and we were thinking a little bit more, because we'd done this on like just the computer, like we you know, it was just simple stuff, right? Paint. That looks great, let's do that. And the colours we chose were quite soft, weren't they? So we did sort of softer colours, and so we did a bit of brand work, which was really, really interesting work to do. And then they came up with a new brand, and I think they definitely encapsulated our personalities, which you're saying is direct, no bullshit, that kind of pragmatic solution focused. They came up with red and black, which were a very powerful palette of colours, and a new name, Strike.
Interesting.
Okay, so I was like, oh, that's quite powerful. Then I was like, no, that's definitely not going to work. Strike. We're a HR consultancy. I don't know how that works. Well, it would work quite well now because
This
all
year,
of these strikes, we would have been raking it in, wouldn't we? Just because of that. So then, so I'm quite protective of it because I think it reflects the business that we have created.
Yeah.
And it is what we do and who we are.
On a day-to-day basis.
And so we would definitely keep it. We've changed the colours. That's all we've done, isn't it, over the years?
Yeah, but
and made the butterfly look a bit more techie than a
I'm not sure you can make
butterfly.
a butterfly
But it
look
looks a little bit sharper. But so that's where the name came from.
Cool. Has any client ever asked you why? Has anyone ever asked you to explain why you called the business, why you called it?
No. Clearly not interested enough.
Or maybe it's just because we're so good at what we do, they can see it anyway.
Yeah, I guess it does what it says.
Self-explanatory.
Yeah,
I suppose it's supposed to be
absolutely.
a bit self-explanatory.
Yeah.
Nice.
What name? CT19. Where did that come from, Chris?
Well, I've been asked a few times, but I mean, in truth, so on the bottom of our logo it says connecting talent.
That'll be the CT.
That's basically where I was going with it. Obviously, we started in 2019, and then we started October 19.
Yeah.
February, March 2020 is when COVID happened. And it was funny when I was talking to candidates and potential clients. They were like, "Oh, so you're just doing like COVID recruitment because of the name?" And I was just like,
"Oh, how weird!"
I wouldn't have connected that.
No, but it's kind of stuck. And our logo, as you know, is like arrows and with like the whole connecting talent piece. So like we're taking on board a brief from a client and we're connecting them with talented individuals. That's kind of where our name came from.
I thought it was Chris and Taylor 19.
Maybe.
That's what I thought. I don't know why.
I mean, you talked a little bit earlier about the how you got and you started CT19, but what was it that prompted you?
I think recruiters, like, let's be honest, like, don't always have the best reputation. I think there are some great recruiters out there, some great companies out there, but there's also like there's no barrier to entry. Like you can leave school and go and be a recruiter, right?
Yeah.
And I think the old school days are, if someone picks up the phone enough times, then they will speak to enough people and they'll win business. And I think I dealt with, I've worked with some great recruiters. I've tried to take like pieces of those good ones. And a lot of that actually came from back when we worked together at ONI and I was kind of like helping manage the recruitment. I was like, well, I really like what he or she is doing. I'm going to like take that when I do my own thing. And I just believe that we can humanize what we do and actually work in true partnership with our clients rather than just being like something that, like, I feel like some recruiters are used as a necessity, whereas I want people to look at us and be like, we want to work with Chris and his team because like they deliver on what we ask them to do. And I think productizing recruitment more. I think so many like more traditional companies might believe that a recruiter sends an invoice and all they've done is stuck an advert out and like spoken to
your 50 CVs
contingency
and so what we're trying to do is actually productize that, and we've worked together on a couple of accounts where it's like, okay, there's 8 people that need to be hired, like let's put together like a package based on that. We're trying to obviously there's traditional retained recruitment, which I think the old school, like actually if I asked you what does retained recruitment look like, what would your initial answer be? If you were going to engage my company on a retained search, what do you think that looks like?
So for me, retained would be, I think it's like the old-fashioned kind of
pay a bit of money,
pay some money, retain you.
A third.
You might pay a bit up front to do the search, then you might pay something at interview when you've got a shortlist, and then you might pay something final. I think that's probably what retained would mean to me.
Yeah, so we're trying to put a bit of spin on it, and we price ourselves competitively. Like what I hated when I was internal is when someone sent you terms like, these are our standard terms of business.
There's no such thing.
So the word standard just means I'm going to be able to negotiate you down, right? So what we do is we have like 3 pricing structures, and one of them is like a mini retained model, and we just say like, give us a small amount of money up front, £1,000, whatever it might be, and what that does is that means we can prioritize your search, and then we'll do the final invoice at a reduced percentage to your traditional like 20%, as it were. And yeah, when we set up, my old boss actually, who is now also working for himself, he's got his own agency, we had a conversation. He was like, obviously I'm gutted that we're not working together, but I like what you're doing from a productizing recruitment perspective, and there's loads more we can do with it.
And you do the embedded as well, don't you? Because I've definitely noticed certainly in the games industry, that there's more movement towards
there
having
is,
an
yeah.
embedded model for recruitment rather than having, the old-fashioned PSL, loads of recruiters, and you might give it exclusive for 2 weeks with one recruiter and then it doesn't work, and so then you open it out to 3 or 4. What about that?
Yeah, so we do a couple of embedded models at the moment where, like for example, I spend 2 days a week with one company in London. I think the benefits for that company are like they have a always available resource, which I think if I was hiring someone like that, I would say is a massive advantage. I think benefits for me are I get to go and spend time within the business, and therefore I can understand the culture. And that's a word that's talked about a lot, right? But I can understand the culture. I can understand like the environment, the settings. Like when I speak to someone on a video call and I'm screening them, are they going to enjoy working in this environment? And I guess final point I'll say is like, again, back in the day, an HR manager might give you a job description, be like, help us find this. And like, that's just not helpful. Like, I think the embedded model is great from a commitment perspective from both parties.
It's been brilliant. Really enjoyed our conversation today. It's been a while in making, but just been a great opportunity to sit down and chat. So thank you.
Cool. No, thank you both. And looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, really good. Really enjoyed it. So yeah, crack on for the next one.